Thank you so much. And I hope, I know this is the end of the day or towards the end of the day. So the topic of this one is on fast fashion. Fast fashion, as you know, has taken the world of fashion and apparel by storm. Specifically, you've seen both offline players such as Zara, H&M, clock 20 billion plus revenue. The likes of Shein completely disrupt the very way consumers consume. India is no different, as all of these guys will tell you. All of them are young, insurgent brands, which have frankly built fast fashion businesses at pretty enviable scale. And I'm personally very, very excited to talk to all of them, just learn more about what they've found, and just kind of like delve into this topic a little more, unpack it, both in terms of like how consumer preferences are changing, but equally what has it taken to build successful fast fashion brands as well. So without further ado, we can dive right into it. My first question is going to be to all of you individually. Like maybe we keep this to 5 words max. What would you say are the main things that make, or the secret sauce that makes fast fashion brands successful in India?
Yeah, I would like to. So basically, I would say trend responsiveness and social media engagement. Less than 5 words.
Yeah, that's great. Shivani?
I would say a good product market fit and the agility of your supply chain are both very key ingredients in order to scale.
I think I'll say be relevant to the TG that you're building in terms of consistent.
Your mic's not working, sorry.
No, I'll say I think be relevant in terms of the TG that you're building, consistently build what you're building in terms of be the design, quality, your entire social media game. I think be more consistent. That's what is the secret sauce.
I think fast fashion, the 5 keywords would be technology, very, very important, quality, affordability, sustenance, and the right consumer fit.
Perfect. Puneet?
Yeah, I think the quality and price points really need to match. Newness, for sure. You need data and a very responsive supply chain. And then I think you need to be able to talk to customers very fast. So smart social media matters.
Well, I would say for fast fashion, the first thing is a product and customer fit. I mean, that's the most important thing. You should be selling what people want to buy. Then, of course, data. Data is very, very important, as we can see from Shein, we can see from Zara. Data is extremely important. Of course, a very robust supply chain is important because you need to be very fast, very agile in this market.
Perfect. So let's actually spend time clearing all of those different elements, because I heard data, I heard consumer, I heard supply chain. So let's actually spend some time unpacking each of those. And maybe we start with the consumer aspect. Very much Gen Z and urban millennials are considered the core target segment for fast fashion. What would you guys say? How have you seen consumer preferences evolve in India, and what have you learned about Gen Z specifically? Shivani, like maybe you want to start.
So I think that the Gen Z consumer and the millennial consumer, this is in women's fashion, which is the vertical that we work in. There is a very key difference between the way that Gen Z consumers and millennials purchase. Gen Z consumers are far less interested in being body shamed than millennial consumers. Millennial consumers are extremely still sensitive to the fact of like, will this look good on me? Does this suit me? Is this modest enough? And those sort of boundaries have totally been broken by Gen Z. For a lot of our consumer base, particularly for our cheaper products, is a Gen Z consumer. We see people buy fits and cuts that you would not see older millennials buy across sizes. So you'll have, like the way a white t-shirt is sort of the staple top for somebody in a millennial generation, I would say for Gen Z, it's a white crop top that is staple. So it's been a very sort of a significant shift in terms of what they are willing to wear. and what sizes will wear what kind of clothing.
Puneet, maybe I come to you next. You call yourself sort of the Levi's for Gen Z. What have you learned?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like one thing was, the things that millennials were told to hide or cover up, Gen Z is leaning into it, so very, flaunting it. But I think like the fundamental difference between millennials and Gen Z is just access. Millennials grew up with somewhat limited access and exposure to brands, foods, restaurants, what have you. And with Gen Z, it's the opposite. They are growing up, and they have grown up in a space of excess. So everything they want, right from Zepto delivers in 10 minutes, and there's Zomato giving you access to thousands of restaurants, and then there's the platforms that give you access to thousands of brands. And so some folks think that, hey, Gen Zs are inherently disloyal. I'm like, well, not disloyal. They've just got a lot more access. So as a brand, you better be on top of your game, because they're not wedded to anyone unless that value prop is very strong. And just the third part I feel is that you have to speak to them the way they like to be spoken to, and that's more through maybe influencers than the brand itself.
Vinod, anything you'd add? Because your brand is very much geared towards Gen Z.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think Gen Z is one of the most important consumer group for us. In fact, we are building an entire real-time fashion brand for Gen Z. If you look at statistical data also, I think almost 40% of the population right now is Gen Z. And by 2025, 30% of the workforce is going to be Gen Z. So that's a big data that you can't ignore. So the next lever of consumption is going to be driven by Gen Z. And if you look at this consumer group, I think they are the first generation, I think, which has been raised in the digital world. They've been almost born with mobile phones in hand. So they consume a lot of data. They're very confident in terms of what they want. And I think fashion for them is a way to really express themselves. So I think it's a very important category that we're dealing in. And specifically for us, I think the way we are building the brand for them, and again, they don't want to be preached or they don't want to be judged. Like for us, like we have chameleon as a logo basically, which again means like you can be anyone, you can wear anything. Nobody's going to judge you basically. So that's what Gen Z is all about. They know exactly what they want. Don't judge us, don't preach us. A very confident set of customers. I think that's how we look at this consumer group here.
That's fascinating. I'm personally been like super fascinated by just the idea of Gen Z consumers and how brands are going to be able to tap into this very, very important consuming class. Puneet, I want to pick a little bit on what you said about influencers and just the role social media plays. Globally, we've seen Shein being built very closely off the back of working with micro and nano influencers. Is that something that you're seeing in India? Is like, how are you actually tapping into the influencer and creator community in India?
Yeah, I think I feel like the one thing we say at Freakins is, listen, no matter what brand you are, you're not that important to Gen Z. So let's not give ourselves that much importance. Gen Z wants to hear from influencers. They are on social media more than ever before, and all the influencers are there. There's so many influencers every day coming up, fantastic content providers. So if you can speak to the Gen Z audience via influencers in an authentic way, I think that can be very powerful. There's an entire stack of influencers that's been well documented. You've got your mega, macro, micro, nano influencers. All of them drive a lot of value. They help in regional content. They help in any particular cities, certain style trends. Someone here mentioned body types, right? So if there are different fashion trends all over the country, and if you can find the right influencer, then that message gets connected really well. I think in our case, we believe that the time for just having these standard influencer models where you pay an influencer to post a tweet or to hold your placard up and basically say this brand is great is gone. Gen Z can read through that. You now need to have a much deeper partnership with influencers. One thing we believe works is if you can actually design collections, collaborate with the influencer, have their design language on your styles, then the influencer goes out and promotes it with a sense of ownership unlike ever before, and that can actually drive a lot of value because it's authentic, it's more sincere. And I think that works really well. At least that's what we are seeing.
Do you want to add?
Yes, of course. So influencers, of course, are a great way for a brand to scale the brand and also for the social reach. So we at ETRetail work a lot, like everybody else is saying here. Micro influencers work a lot. What we've seen is that fashion influencers, not as much, but lifestyle influencers work a lot for us. And what we've actually noticed is that influencers who work and create content across different platforms like YouTube, they actually bring in a lot of traction for us. Having said that, India is still not very organized in terms of influencer base. And if you look, it has to be like a plug and play model. Instead of us brand owners, founders, new business owners, running after influencer strategy should be more structured. In the West, or let's say what Sheen is doing, it's primarily happening because it's a very organized sector. The UTM links, the logistics, the influencer marketing agencies are much more organized in terms of sorting out the influencers based on their engagement, based on their sector, and that is something that India needs to come up to speed to, because once that's done, the brand owners can focus on something else, and this could be just a plug and play model. And that's what's most important, because the space is getting crowded. We do have a lot of influencers, and for us to sift through that chaos is probably a little difficult.
Sounds like authenticity is a very major strand as you think about both engaging with influencers and just kind of like speaking to the to Gen Zs. What would you the other kind of like shifting gears is around the data side. Some of you brought that up in the context of important moats when you're building this business. And perhaps Vinod, I'm going to ask you to start first, but trend spotting is a very important element to this, right? Like you can't really create like a fast fashion brand without actually having a very good pulse of what consumers want from a trends perspective. Talk a little more about how do you actually go about identifying those trends, the tools you use, and equally, how do you identify what would be a bestseller that you're going to double down on?
So, Manan, very interesting question. And I think if you the first thing is that you get the trend right. If you don't get it right, I think things are not going to fall in place. So, for us, I think we call ourselves more a data and tech company selling fashion, not a fashion company, because that's where I think our moat is going to get built. So, every drop that is getting launched, we have a model where we do a drop of 500 designs every week. That's huge. And every drop that is getting launched is going through a lot of data mining. We have our own trend spotting team which does a lot of trend analysis in terms of like various social media, Google Trend Analytics, and we're building an entire tool around it. We have a set of, in fact, data scientist team working only on prediction model that a design will it succeed or not. So we have both internal and external data which goes before any design is getting launched basically, and the entire model also works in a way that we do a drop and then we see what type of clicks, impressions we are getting, what type of orders are getting. That's the only thing that will get into production. Not everything goes into production. So for us, I think data is extremely critical in terms of how do you mine it. And the entire tech team is getting built to just work on this thing so that our design success rates are pretty high. Because for especially for a brand like us where we're doing a huge launch, it's very critical that you get your design element right. So I think that's how we are working on this entire model right now.
Shivani, what about Uptowny and how you handling this? Anything?
So we try to employ a test to scale model where in the first drop we have a smaller MOQ, and then as Vinod also mentioned, you sort of analyze the clicks, impressions, and you break the funnel down and see why is the purchase not happening. For example, if it's at the end, is it a pricing issue? You fix that, and then you see if your product has traction and you scale quickly on that. Personally, though, I do think it's a little bit of a fallacy to believe that there is some AI tool out there that is completely going to solve for this problem of a dead inventory in fashion. And I think that if that tool does come about, it will become open source and everybody will use it. So it's not going to become a particular advantage anywhere. I think it is still very important to focus on your unique design language and what you are particularly offering to the customer from a fashion point of view, just from a they want this point of view. And also to stay extremely tuned into what is going on social media and sort of trawl that constantly. So we have an in-house team that does that and sees what kind of trends are picking up in different places, for example, and to adapt it to the country that you're in. For example, Alia Bhatt in some movie, I forgot, she was wearing this ombre sari. So in that, the 4 to 6 months after that, ombre became a really big thing in India, and that's not true globally, right? People are just aren't that into it. So we launched something in that colorway, and the takeoff was incredible. So I think to be really plugged into your particular geography, what is going on social media there, and then feed that into your designs is very important. And I don't think there's some, clean click and go method here. Like I wish there was, but I don't think there is.
Any of you using tools, or like I guess if Alpna, you would like, for example, the like Stylumia, like Google Analytics, or something more advanced and in-house, which can actually help do what you're saying, that like it's very hard at an individual level to be able to pick that like this color is in because Alia Bhatt is wearing it. So I'm just curious, like how do you scale something like this?
Yes, exactly. So scalability is the main issue. That is the main goal of each brand. And for that to happen, I think there are 3 prongs to it, and all 3 prongs have data attached to it. So let's say one is the forecasting, wherein you Google and you find out WGSN, you find out what's happening in fashion weeks, because that's going to affect. So it's international fashion weeks, then I'm also talking about the local fashion weeks that we have nationally and in India. That is one part of it, one aspect of it. The second aspect is, of course, data analytics, and we use a tool called Stylumia. So they have web crawlers. They'll tell you the real-time data as to what customer is actually buying at that given point of time. Several companies and several brands, and the biggest one of them is, of course, Shein, which is using the in-house tools, and we have started developing those, and we are working on those tools, and they are under proprietary state, so I cannot talk about them, but of course they are the tools which actually enhance and even lets you know to the pinpoint which color is being driven in the market. So, but then again, the third prong that comes into play is how fast you are. That's when you'll come to the supply chain, because all of this is a waste unless you are actually very agile and able to catch on to that trend. So that's why fast fashion cannot live without a very robust supply chain management.
That's actually a great segue to the supply chain side for me. Just I'm curious. I mean, Vinod, you said that you're doing 500 designs a week. In effect, what you guys are all talking about is dropping the mind to market or design to market to less than 2 weeks practically. And some of you are actually even pushing the boundaries of that, right? Curious from a supply chain perspective, 2-part question. One, how ready is India to actually deliver this? And like, what are the elements required in order to make this happen? And Anand, I know you have a deep experience in supply chain. Maybe I'll pull you in and how you guys have done this at scale for the Indian Garage company.
So I think we are rolling out close to 500 designs a month today, and we ship a volume of close to 1 million pieces, somewhere around 7 lakh, 8 lakh units is what we do every month. On the supply chain, I think on the raw material side, I think there's a lot of scope still. I think we are still a little behind with regards to R&D on textile, etc. On production, yes, we are there. I think we can manage bulk production. The way we've built it for Indian Garage really is that we've adopted the route of captive capacities rather than going into own manufacturing. We've built a beautiful model called entrepreneurship model, which is entrepreneur within an entrepreneur, and we've signed capacities where these are all aspiring entrepreneurs, technically very, very skilled, and then we've given them all the support on finances, technical know-how, a centralized team basically to manage the entire production. And therefore we are able to manage this quantity. So I think and obviously this is also the reason why we are able to manage such a large volume, which is very unheard of in the fashion industry. And also at the same time we are able to shorten our lead times. We've launched products as early as 15 days, depending on we did a range with Myntra when there was a Shah Rukh Khan movie Jawan. I think one evening they called me 8:30 and they're like, "Gana dekha kya?" And I'm like, "8:30 baj rahe hai, tumko masti lag rahi hai." They're like, "Nahi, did you see the song?" And I'm like, "No, I have not seen any song." They made me play it and they said, can you make these shirts? And I'm like, yeah, why can't we make it? I said, yeah, we'll make it and deliver it to you. They're like, no, we want it before the movie releases. And I'm like, okay, when is it releasing? And they're like, I think it was some 7th of October, I think I precisely remember the movie released. And they had called me and the song had released somewhere around 24th September, something like that. And I was like, are you joking? Like, do you really want me to turn around fashion in, 10 days and deliver it to you? And they were like, no, we are very serious. We want to take the rights of the movie. And I think this should really kick off. Uh, I think with their push, what was proved was we did deliver. We have our in-house studio. We had our captive capacities. We made the supplier work overnight to print the fabric, send it to us. Because our supply chain was very, very agile, we could turn around the garments also in the shortest lead time and then shoot them and take them live. So I think India is ready per se with regards to factories and manufacturing capacities. But the only improvement area that I see is R&D, and that's I think a lot to do with history because we've never had this the kind of market that is developing now, which is direct to consumer. I think there is where the innovation starts to come in, which was not existent in India before. So yeah.
Look, I think it's a fascinating story about kind of like doing it in 10 days, but Vinod, you built an entire business about doing this in 10 days. So tell us a little more about how you've done that, both in the India context and as well as I understand that you source a lot from China or other countries as well.
I think really interesting. I think when we started our journey around 2 years back, everything was imported for us. And like we are not doing anything from India. And now within a span of 18 months, almost 50% of our manufacturing is happening in India. So the infrastructure is there, I say, but I think it is slightly scattered. We have to get it organized. That's what we are trying to do. So my idea is that we're trying to build a Guangzhou in Bombay. Basically, that's how I look at it because that's where I think when I visited Guangzhou a couple of times, and the way they've built is there's infrastructure, there's a complete tech park where you get everything right from the machines to accessories or thread, everything is available in one place. I think that's where I think that infrastructure has still not been built here, but I think there's a huge chance to really build that. So I think that's how we are approaching this business. And like I said, we launch almost 500 designs a week. The entire model is basically a zero inventory model. So we don't make any inventory in case, because if you make inventory, I think your entire model goes for a toss in terms of working capital, in terms of the entire inventory cover. So we do basically samples and then we launch it, and we look at the amount of clicks, impressions, orders that we get. And on the basis of that, we do a prediction model, what will get into our production on the basis of things that we think can be hero style. But obviously we have visibility of fabric, we have visibility of the entire assembly line. So we know that which assembly line can take what, fabric visibility is there. So that's how we're building an entire tight supply chain model out here. So it's a very lean model. And we've built the entire ERP tool around it. So we are trying to really source something, outsource a tool. But I think the model that we are building in terms of zero, there was no ERP. So we had to build everything from scratch, which gives us real-time visibility of each and every steps of production, right from your fabric, cutting, finishing, everything is really visible out there. So I think without that, probably we are not reached here. So it's a basically tightly integrated solution that we are building. And I think that's going to be the biggest mode, basically, the entire supply chain, the way we are building it. And we aim to be like 70, 80% by next year, the entire India supply chain. And again, there's a lot of work which needs to happen here. But I think I clearly feel that infrastructure is there. We have to tightly work with our partners also. So right now we are working in a hybrid model where we have certain factories which are captive and certain factories are built in-house. But even the partner factories that are working with, we have an entire team on the ground who are working closely with in terms of ensuring a lot of tech in that. The entire ERP has got rolled out to these partner factories, working closely with them. I think that's why I think we want to really upgrade them also in terms of what is required to be a global brand. So that's how we're approaching this entire business here.
Fascinating. Altna, you built a career in supply chain. Even beyond Latic Salt, you lead Falabella's Southeast sort of subcontinent business in India and Bangladesh. Does this resonate as you think about Bangladesh and kind of like the maturity of that supplier ecosystem versus India?
Of course, of course. I think we are, it's a very exciting time to be in India to be a fashion retailer, because this is the only place where the supply chain is there, where the manufacturing is there, and where the retail is. I mean, other retailers across the world do not have this advantage. They actually just the logistics, just the shipping cost them not less than 15 days. So we are in a very exciting space. And for me, I think in India, manufacturing, 95% of our production is out of India for Attic salt. And the way to build it is, of course, through design, through production, and through supply chain. So, of course, where my co-panelists said that infrastructure still comes into play, we too can use certain tools like Clo, which is design centric. So you are able to foresee what your final product is going to look in terms of design, styling, color, drapes, silhouettes, etc. To launch it within 2 days and to get it manufactured, like my friend over there said, you need to have in-house manufacturing. If not that, you need to have captive factories. You have to build a technology-driven supply chain wherein just-in-time manufacturing, Kanban, these processes are to be used. They're very important tools right now for fast fashion. You have to replenish faster, and the biggest bane of the fast fashion industry right now is inventory, of course. So that also helps us if we predict the right let's say the SKUs which are going into be the best sellers. So I think all that, but supply chain in India is robust, and we need to just kind of build onto it, utilize the right systems, do just in time, be agile, use the tools which are available to us. There are certain tools which are fantastic in the market. There's Glow, there's so many. So I think we have a very strong opportunity in terms of building a fast fashion brand out of India for the Indian market, and why not for everybody else as well.
Super. Let's shift gears towards distribution side a little bit. Alok, as Berry Lush, you guys have partnered with Myntra from pretty much the very start of your operations. Help us understand kind of like the different channels that you work with. Like a lot of you guys are building your own brand.coms, but equally platforms have remained very salient. What is your view on the importance and role that platforms and marketplaces play for a brand like yours?
So for us, so when we initially launched, right, like we were a bootstrap company till now, and in a very frugal manner we used to work. So what marketplace gives you is predictability on the cost of doing business, right? Like so, without spending much on marketing when you are launching the brand, that definitely gives you a very good platform. Once that kicks off, and you have the other channels, be it online, be it offline, your own proprietary channels, right? What benefit we get in that is that the volumes that we get from marketplaces, it helps in reducing the overall cost of the products. And that benefit you can pass on to your customers through your own website and your physical stores. So what we again believe strongly is that customers do not purchase from a single channel, right? It's always a multi-channel approach, a omni-channel approach. Some customers might first discover Berilush in Myntra maybe, and the third purchase maybe it is from the own website, or you can acquire a customer through stores, and then maybe because of convenience, they continue buying from Myntra. So the thing is that for a brand, these are just channels for us, and at the end of the day, like the credibility of the brand is very important. So there are certain times when people feel more comfortable buying in a established platform versus a brand like website. So it's like for us it has worked out kind of beautifully, where the marketplace and our own website is like working out very well, where we get a lot of data from our own website, but at the same time marketplaces gives us a lot of volume, which actually helps. So currently we sell roughly around 1,50,000 units month, right? So that definitely gives us an advantage in reducing the overall costing of the products.
Puneet, as speaking as a younger brand, like in a particular category, like how have you seen the importance of platforms. And equally, I understand you're also going offline as well. So in fact, all of you guys are like looking at offline stores. So just help us understand kind of like that dynamic between brand.com platform and offline stores.
Yeah, I think like Alok said, it's all distribution, right? And we love the marketplaces offline. We've just got one store that we tested, and touch wood, it's done fantastic. So we'll expand on that. They all have their pros and cons, right? We got to go where the customer is. Just first principles. DTC or your direct store is fantastic if you want to test styles fast. If you've got a lot of newness coming in and you want to be able to launch and quickly pick up on trends, what's working, what's not working. It seems like DTC can be very powerful for that. So you can almost create the value on DTC, and then capturing that value, you can go to marketplaces and say, these are my hits out there, and I'm now going to go double down on volume, like Alok was saying on the marketplaces. If you've got a product that is maybe more bespoke or customized, and you want to really control that retail experience, I guess DTC matters more. But I think what we constantly see is there's just a much broader base on the marketplaces. So there's about a 60% overlap in stuff that sells on DTC and marketplace. And then there's like 30-40% that's unique to the marketplace customer, because there's just a much larger base over there with more nuanced likings. And I think with offline, it's this, like what we've just seen with one store, by the way. So I don't want to say like these are deep insights, but most people coming in say, we know about the brand, we like the brand, we're not going to buy online. This is the experience that for some reason I want to try these pair of jeans before I buy it. And now that y'all are offline here, I'm going to try it. And so that's our insight to say, okay, we got to go bigger into offline.
I'd be remiss if I do not talk about Shein in this context. Like if you think about the future of fast fashion in India, how do you think insurgents like yours will be able to compete with the likes of Shein, which basically brings the global might of that data, technology, and cumulative years of experience? Shivani, maybe we start with you.
So I think for us in particular, we are a D2C driven brand. 70% of sales for us come through the D2C. And the opportunity that we have in D2C is to really communicate with the customer and build a brand identity. So for us, our brand identity is to be a brand that is designed for the Indian body type and for Indian preferences and sensibilities, whether that has to do with colors, it has to do with cuts, it has to do with the kind of fabric that we use. And we think that that is going to be the key differentiator between us and an international player, whether that's Zara, H&M, or Shein, which is bigger and cheaper as well than Zara and H&M. So the key differentiator is really going to be that, because international brands are still doing product development and building the supply chain for a global audience, which wears clothes that are significantly different still from what people like to consume in India. Both on the modesty of the cuts, on the sizes that are done for taller bodies, slimmer bodies often, and even the type of colors that people in India like to wear. People in India, even in winter, don't like to wear beige, black, and grey all the time. It's women at least wear pink, reds, oranges a lot, perhaps throughout the year. So those are, and people in India like to wear breathable fabric because it's so hot here, but that's not the case abroad. And so we think that for us, the sort of moat, I hope, is going to be the fact that we are telling our customer that we are giving you a distinctive product which is best suited for where you live and what you prefer to wear.
Anant, any other perspectives? I know you have thoughts on Shein and like what it could do.
I think we'll have to learn to compete. That's all. They are going to come no matter what, right? And I think the consumption overall will also grow. And I think they must also be looking at the growing Indian market. Obviously, they will come with their own set of learning and their own set of technology. But I think entrepreneurs can always, the way we've built our systems are very, very agile. And once you start becoming bigger, the ship is difficult to kind of turn. So I think agility will play a very, very important role, how agile we remain. And we'll have to ramp up our infrastructure to, probably beat them at their game in India. I think what we are forgetting here is in China, the way the ecosystem is built and why Shein could be really, really successful in China is because if you I've traveled to China a lot. There are more than 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 manufacturers, small boutique manufacturers, and they keep producing. They buy every day, they produce every day, and then they sell every day. So it's very easy for anybody to go and kind of absorb that ecosystem and get it to one platform. But inherently in India, that does not exist at all. You will not see a lot of small boutique manufacturers where you could go white label, or you could go and repeat. So I think it's not going to be the same terrain for Shein here in India, and I think all of us here probably.
I think it's going to take the collective power of all of you. Final question: if you were to advise young founders who are building fast fashion brands in India, what are the two pieces of advice that all of you would give? And maybe we can go pretty quickly across. Alpna, we can start from you.
Okay. Again, I think product market fit, like we mentioned earlier, but more than that, I think you have to listen to the customer. I think that's the most key important area. And brands like these, like ours, who have bigger, broader customer base, customer service, talking to consumers, finding out their preferences. I think that's very, very important for somebody to build a brand. Also, just to have your own website or an offline presence is important to get this kind of feedback. So always aspire for that. That's how you build a brand.
Great. We can go very quickly.
Yeah, I think apparel is just all about execution. Like everything this panel has said, responsive supply chain, listen to the customers, product quality matters. This is so critical, right? This has been relevant for years. Everyone knows the Zara playbook and then the Shein playbook. It's less about worrying about whether Shein comes in, and it's more like, if I think any of us fail or succeed is because we executed well. In particular, if you can build that robust supply chain and manage inventory well, you'll do good.
So my advice for somebody starting in fast fashion would be that start from a niche and identify the wide gap. Go category by category. Don't look at fast fashion as a whole. Look at it from a perspective that what is the gap that is there currently, and address that. And that is how you can build it. Right?
Got my eye on the clock. So final thoughts, just 30 seconds.
I was honestly going to say the same thing. Find a niche, get known for one particular thing, and branch out rather than going all guns blazing across categories without having relevant learning. And also, just from a more abstract perspective, as a young entrepreneur, I think it's really important to cultivate resilience, because there are going to be cycles of ups and downs, and you sort of need to hold yourselves through those.
I think be focused and be invested. I think it takes a bit of time to build a profitable business. So I think just invest in. And I strongly feel that the next set of global fast fashion brands will be built from India. So I think to be the other way, the bigger brand should be scared of us than we've been scared of us. I think that's how I look at it. So I think it's the right ecosystem to really build the brand.
Touché.
I think building a long-term, sustainable, very resilient and agile infrastructure or the entire ecosystem, that is one, and very, very, very hard focus on quality. I think quality definitely pays off in the longer run. So I think, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been super, super insightful. Really appreciate you all making the time.